The Day I Got Lost by Isaac Bashevis Singer. It is easy to recognize me. See a man in the street wearing a too long coat, too large shoes, and a crumpled hat with a wide brim, spectacles with one lens missing, and carrying an umbrella though the sun is shining. That man will be me, Professor Schlemiel. There are other unmistakable clues to my identity. My pockets are always bulging with newspapers, magazines, and just papers. I carry an overstuffed briefcase and I'm forever making mistakes. I've been living in New York City for over 40 years, yet whenever I want to go uptown, I find myself walking downtown. And when I want to go east, I go west. I'm always late and I never recognize anybody. I'm always misplacing things. 100 times I ask myself, where's my pen? Where's my money? Where's my handkerchief? Where's my address book? I am what is known as an absent-minded professor. For many years, I had been teaching philosophy in the same university, and I still have difficulty locating my classrooms. Elevators play strange tricks on me. I want to go to the top floor and I land in the basement. Hardly a day passes when an elevator door doesn't close on me. Elevator doors are my worst enemies. In addition to my constant blundering and losing things, I'm forgetful. I enter a coffee shop, hang up my coat, and leave without it. By the time I remember to go back and look for it, I've forgotten where I've been. I lose hats, books, umbrellas, rubbers, and above all, manuscripts. Sometimes I even forget my own address. One evening, I took a taxi because I was in a hurry to get home. The taxi driver said, "Where to?" And I could not remember where I lived. "Home," I said. "Where is home?" he asked in astonishment. "I don't remember," I replied. "What is your name?" "Professor Schlemiel." "Professor," the driver said, "I'll get you to a telephone booth. Look in the telephone book and you'll find your address." He drove me to the nearest drugstore with a telephone booth in it, but he refused to wait. I was about to enter the store when I realized I had left my briefcase behind. I ran after the taxi, shouting, "My briefcase, my briefcase!" But the taxi was already out of earshot. In the drugstore, I found a telephone book, but when I looked under S, I saw to my horror that there were a number of Schlemiels listed, and I was not among them. At that moment, I recalled that several months before, Mrs. Schlemiel had decided that we should have an unlisted telephone number. The reason was that my students thought nothing of calling me in the middle of the night and waking me up. It also happened quite frequently that someone wanted to call another Schlemiel and got me by mistake. That was all very well, but how was I going to get home? I usually had some letters addressed to me in my breast pocket, but just that day I had decided to clean out my pockets. It was my birthday and my wife had invited friends in for the evening. She had baked a huge cake and decorated it with birthday candles. I could see my friends sitting in our living room, waiting to wish me a happy birthday. And here I stood in some drugstore, for the life of me not able to remember where I lived. Then I recalled the telephone number of a friend of mine, Dr. Motherhead, and I decided to call him for help. I dialed and a young girl's voice answered. "Is Dr. Motherhead at home?" "No," she replied. "Is his wife at home?" "They're both out," the girl said. "Perhaps you can tell me where they can be reached," I said. "I'm only the babysitter, but I think they went to a party at Professor Schlemiel's. Would you like to leave a message?" she said. "Who shall I send called, please?" "Professor Schlemiel," I said. "They left for your house about an hour ago," the girl said. "Can you tell me where they went?" I asked. "I've just told you," she said. "They went to your house." "But where do I live?" "You must be kidding," the girl said and hung up. I tried to call a number of friends, those whose telephone numbers I happened to think of, but whenever I called I got the same reply. "They've gone to a party at Professor Schlemiel's." As I stood in the street wondering what to do, it began to rain. "Where's my umbrella?" I said to myself, and I knew the answer at once. I'd left it somewhere. I got under a nearby canopy. It was now raining cats and dogs. It lightninged and thundered. All day it had been sunny and warm, but now I was lost and my umbrella was lost. But now that I was lost and my umbrella was lost, it had to storm. It looked as if it would go on for the rest of the night. To distract myself, I began to ponder the ancient philosophical problem. A mother chicken lays an egg, I thought to myself, and when it hatches, there is a chicken. That's how it has always been. Every chicken comes from an egg, and every egg comes from a chicken. But was there a chicken first, or an egg first? No philosopher has ever been able to solve this eternal question. Just the same, there must be an answer. Perhaps I, Schlemiel, am destined to stumble on it. It continued to pour buckets. My feet were getting wet and I was chilled. I began to sneeze and I wanted to wipe my nose, but my handkerchief, too, was gone. At that moment, I saw a big black dog. He was standing in the rain getting soaked and looking at me with sad eyes. I knew immediately what the trouble was. The dog was lost. He, too, had forgotten his address. I felt a great love for that innocent animal. I called to him and he came running to me. I talked to him as if he were human. Fellow, we're in the same boat, I said. I'm a man, Schlemiel, and you're a dog, Schlemiel. Perhaps it's also your birthday and there's a party for you, too. And here you stand, shivering and forsaken in the rain, while your loving master is searching for you everywhere. You're probably just as hungry as I am. I patted the dog on his wet head, and he wagged his tail. Whatever happens to me will happen to you, I said. I'll keep you with me until we both find our homes. If we don't find your master, you'll stay with me. Give me your paw, I said. The dog lifted his right paw. There was no question that he understood. A taxi drove by and splattered us both. Suddenly, it stopped and I heard someone shouting, Schlemiel, Schlemiel! I looked up and saw the taxi door open, and the head of a friend of mine appeared. Schlemiel, he called, what are you doing here? Who are you waiting for? Where are you going? I asked. To your house, of course. I'm sorry I'm late, but I was detained. Anyhow, better late than never. But why aren't you at home? And whose dog is that? Only God could have sent you, I exclaimed. What a night! I've forgotten my address. I've left my briefcase in a taxi. I've lost my umbrella, and I don't know where my rubbers are. Schlemiel, my friend said, if there was ever an absent-minded professor, you're it. When I rang the bell of my apartment, my wife opened the door. Schlemiel, she shrieked. Everybody is waiting for you. Where have you been? Where's your briefcase, your umbrella, your rubbers, and who is this dog? Our friends surrounded me. Where have you been? They cried. We were so worried. We thought surely something had happened to you. Who is this dog? My wife kept repeating. I don't know, I said finally. I found him in the street. Let's just call him Bow Wow for the time being. Bow Wow indeed, my wife scolded. You know our cat hates dogs. And what about the parakeets? He'll scare them to death. He's a quiet dog, I said. He'll make friends with the cat. I'm sure he loves parakeets. I could not leave him shivering in the rain. He's a good soul. The moment I said this, the dog let out a blood-curdling howl. The cat ran into the room. When she saw the dog, she arched her back and spat at him, ready to scratch out his eyes. The parakeets in their cage began flapping their wings and screeching. Everybody started talking at once. There was pandemonium. Would you like to know how it all ended? Bow Wow still lives with us. He and the cat are great friends. The parakeets have learned to ride on his back as if he were a horse. As for my wife, she loves Bow Wow even more than I do. Whenever I take the dog out, she says, "Now don't forget your address, both of you." I never find my briefcase or my umbrella or my rubbers. Like many philosophers before me, I've given up trying to solve the riddle of which came first, the chicken or the egg. Instead, I've started writing a book called The Memoirs of Schlemiel. If I don't forget the manuscript in a taxi or a restaurant or on a bench in the park, you may read them someday. In the meantime, here is a sample chapter.